Here we are, fall of 2012. Where do we go from here? I'm glad you've already seen this graph. I don't have to explain it to you. It shows you wet periods and dry periods over the last 117 years, but what I want to talk to you about is what I call the new normal. And the new normal has occurred from 1980 to about 2010, when the rainfall was exceptionally good. And most of us in this audience only know that time period. You know, to go back to the drought of the 50s, you know, you would probably need to be 70 years old to 80 years old to really understand what the drought of the 50s brought. You know, the drought of the 30s, my father was just a kid, World War II veteran, and he's since passed about 3 years ago, but he didn't even talk much about the drought of the 30s. But the new normal is this period of time right here from the, you know, the 80s, the 90s, 2000. We were extremely wetter, or much wetter than what is normal or what is average. 34 inches is average for the state of Oklahoma. I ran the numbers for the last 30 years, and that's 37 inches, a 3-inch deviation. And that's why every time I talk to you guys, I tell you to read these two books so you understand what happened in the 30s and you understand what happened in the 50s. I'm not going to dwell a lot on these, but I still would encourage you, if you haven't read these two books, to do that, because who knows? Drought is normal and it will happen. Take-home question from all this is my stocking rate proper? I think about it every day. You should too if you're in the cattle and forage business. As a general rule of thumb on native grass, now this doesn't hold true for fertilized Bermuda grass, but as a general rule of thumb on native grass, you can stock at a rate of a cow per section per inch of rainfall. So if the state average of Oklahoma is 34 inches of rainfall, that's 34 cows per section. If I reverse that and take that section divided by that 34 cows, I get a stocking rate of 19 acres per cow. Most of us would say, well, with 34 inches, I could stock it a cow to 10 acres, you know, or a cow to 12 acres. Well, yeah, you could, but you feed hay for 3 months or 4 months, or you're on Bermuda grass pasture and you fertilize. But on native range, I think this is pretty close. But your carrying capacity, which is different than stocking rate. The stocking rate is the number of animals you run on your pastures. Carrying capacity is the number you could or should be running. That's a moving target, just like that erratic rainfall year by year. If we look at it in terms of extremely wet years versus extremely dry years and use that same rule of thumb to calculate our carrying capacity, look what my carrying capacity would be down here in, you know, if I'm 10 to 15 inches below normal, I go from 19 acres per cow to 29 acres per cow. So the swing here is almost 20 acres per animal unit, depending on what kind of year we have, and what I'm finding out too, what kind of consecutive years we have. You know, we were hurt bad enough in 2011. 2012 isn't doing any good for us right now at this point in time. April 10th, 2012, we were in good shape. Just wanted you to remember that. The drought was getting better even down here in the southwest. This should be encouragement to you. This is what the NOAA weather told us, because Job or somebody showed us what the drought was what the outlook was for the future, and it was fairly bleak. I do want to show you this though, because this is what it was supposed to do in Oklahoma and the Midwest from April through June. But it did not do that. It actually reversed. The Southwest got the rain, and we in the Midwest and Central Plains did not. This was released today. It says September 4th, but they're always a couple of days behind. It was released today, showing what the drought is like across the U.S. as we speak. The seasonal outlook was also released today, and you've already looked at this. It's not showing a lot of promise for us. But I put more faith in long-term averages than I do short-term weather. And so Hugh and I and Jim, you know, we look at climate forecast as opposed to weather forecast. I thought this interesting. Gary McManus, how many of you get the Mesonet ticker? Do you know what I'm talking about? If you don't, you can Google it or search it. I get it on my phone about every other day, and he talks about the weather, and he's always got neat charts in there. And he showed this chart, and if you didn't know what year it was, it almost looks like it was a hand drawing of this year. This is 1934. That was the year up until maybe this year the drought was most severe across the entire U.S. This I picked up off the New York Times, and it shows the percentage of drought in the continental U.S. during the month of June from the period 1986 to actually 2012. I couldn't get them all on one slide, so I split it up. But I wanted to throw this up there. How many of you can see 1934? I mean, it stands out like a sore thumb. Do you see it? Right there. Right there's 1934. Here's the 50s. I mean, this is bad over the whole U.S., but the 50s, look what happened. Drought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in a row we're in drought. And that's what scares me about the 50s, and I pray that's not where we are today. El Nino, La Nina, where are we here? You know, you want to start watching. We want to be in El Nino, and that gives us our jet stream more from the Pacific straight across the continental U.S. as opposed to the La Nina that we've been in, where it comes up north and then sweeps back down. El Nino brings rain. This one kind of decreases our chance of rain. Right now, the release just came out today, and we are still not officially in an El Nino. We are in a El neutral pattern at this point in time. It went on to say that El Nino conditions are likely to develop during September and October and persist through February 2013. From everything I'm reading, it talks about this El Nino event being a weak event. You know, not as strong as we've seen in the past. The other reason, yes, I do like to watch El Nino and La Nina and do give credence to it, but it affects more of the southwestern U.S., southwest Texas, southwest Oklahoma, New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona, those areas of the U.S. than it does Oklahoma. Seasonal outlook, September, again, NOAA Weather Service, September through November, they're calling for temperature to be warmer than normal, precipitation, equal chances. We got a 50% chance that we will see normal precipitation during the months of September, October, and November. Thing that's scaring me is you know, we're already September 6th today. Here's a 6 to 10 day outlook. Not very promising. Brown means below normal. The darker the brown, the more below normal your odds are for getting rain in the next 6 to 10 days. 8 to 14 day outlook. Again, for most of us in Oklahoma and North Texas, it's saying below normal. I missed the earlier programs today, but I'm sure people talk to you a little bit about wheat planting and early planting and things like that. But you know, if we get out another 14 days, that's going to put us to September 20th. You know, be watching what the rainfall patterns are doing, because if you have to wait to plant wheat until October to grow it for grazing, you're running out of time because you're up against the wall because of cool temperatures. And last year, the only thing that saved our butts was the unseasonably warm temperatures, and we grew wheat all winter long. Wanted to bring up something that's called the Pacific Decadal Oscillator. We don't hear we don't hear our weathermen talk much about this. This is more of a climatological forecast, and it forecasts 20 to 30 year trends, this oscillator does. And if you look, in the late 40s, this oscillator went negative, cooler ocean temperatures, and it stayed that way up until the early 80s. Well, this takes into account some of those dry periods that we saw. It went positive over the last almost 30 years, kind of stayed neutral in here, and in 2007 or 8, there's some discussion as to which year it actually went negative again, but it did that in 2007 and 2008. And I don't show this to frighten you. I show this to tell you to make a plan. What if it doesn't rain again next summer? What if it does? What are we going to do? Know what you're up against. This is interesting to me. It went negative here in the 40s, stayed negative through the late 70s. This was a pretty severe drought period, or a drier than normal period. It went positive in the late 70s, gave us a pretty good wet period. Went negative again here. I don't know how long this dry period will extend. And hopefully this oscillator doesn't hold trend and we blow it off the map and we don't have a 20 to 30 year drier than normal period. But I do want you to understand this was not normal right here. It was not normal. And I don't know that this is really enough of a correlation to say it produced that. But I do know the last 30 years was not normal. It was wetter than normal. So we need to plan for stocking rates to be reduced over the next coming years, I would say. 117 years of rainfall data. I went and counted the little dots, and lo and behold, 50% of the years are wetter than normal and 50% of the years are drier than normal. This is my weatherman speech right here. Probability now, we got real technical with it. Probability of having up to 5 inches above normal rainfall and 5 inches below normal rainfall. That probability is about 30% in any given year. 5 to 10 inches above or below average, 16% and 13% respectively. The probability of it being 10 to 15 inches above average or below average is about 6 to 7%. So 6 to 7% of the time, 6 years in 100, we should expect pretty severe drought. It is normal. It will occur. One slide, this is from a personal situation in the Arbuckles on the insurance that we looked at. I was real leery of this insurance, and it was new to Oklahoma. I didn't like the vegetation index. We didn't talk to you guys about it because we didn't feel confident because of broomweed and cedar and all these things that can look green by a satellite. We just weren't confident with that. But when they came out with the rainfall insurance, I studied it pretty closely, made a couple of phone calls, and ended up taking it out ourselves a couple of years ago. But this is on 20,000 acres of leased ground in the Arbuckles that we're running cattle on. Shows you the net, not gross, but this is net payback after premium since 1991. Remember, it was pretty wet in the 90s, even in the 2000s, but look at how many years it pays back versus how many years it doesn't. And again, the reason why this works, I think, is solely because it's subsidized. We've never had anything in our industry with cattle and forage other than NAP, which kind of covered natural disasters, but we've never had the luxury of crop insurance and things like that, like the corn farmers and the wheat farmers and used to be peanut farmers have in the past. So this is similar to that. How long is it going to last? I don't know. This new farm bill could kill it, but I don't think it will. I think we'll have this long after we hear of direct payments to not plant a crop. I think this is, and especially with beef numbers being down like Dan showed us, I would hope that our government says, hey, livestock are important to us. We want you to be able to stay in business, and we want quality meat grown here in the U.S. And that's what this program, I really feel, is hoping to do for us. And if any of you want to visit about the insurance, I can tell you things that I've done personally, and Job knows what I've done, and Job's helped me through this whole process, and Dan knows a lot about it too. So if you still have questions after you visit with the insurance vendors, free feel to call us. Conclusions, we'll wrap this up. Estimate your stocking rates. If you're going to just use an average, use a long-term average. Don't say, well, 10 years ago I could run 100 cows, so today I can run 100 cows. Use long-term averages, not short-term averages. But monitor yearly. Seasonally would even be better than that. Know if it doesn't rain in the spring, you're not going to grow grass in the summer unless you have a hurricane. Keep the ground covered. That's the most important thing. Is 2 inches of rainfall always 2 inches of rainfall? No, it's not. If it lands on bare, dry ground, it's gone the next day. If it lands on vegetation or mulch or ground that's covered, it'll store in the soil and not evaporate as quickly. Plus, your soil temperatures don't get as hot. Make active rest a part of any grazing program that you have. Consider risk management through the USDA. Have a plan. And last but not least, again, I think sometimes a wrong decision, and I made plenty of them in the last 2 years, even with all the help and luxury of the Noble Foundation. I still made decisions that I really don't think they were wrong. I could have made a better decision, but I didn't get myself backed into a corner. I moved before that happened. So a wrong decision is usually better than no decision at all. And I will end with that. I appreciate your patience and your willingness to stay this late.